always tell the girls, never take it seriously. If you never take it seriously, you never get hurt. And if you never get hurt, you always have fun. And if you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and visit your friends. Hi, I'm Abby. I have a lot of records, and this is the Vinyl Monday Halloween special. What? It's the hair, right? Okay, yeah. Before we really get this video going, yeah, this is my natural hair. I don't post it on the internet, really, for a myriad of reasons. So enjoy this now. This may very well be the only time you ever see me with this hair on this channel. Absorb it while it lasts. The things I will do to dress for a theme. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. Vinyl Monday is the series where once a week I sit down and just talk about albums that I love. If 20-minute deep dive episodes aren't your thing, don't worry. I also do Vinyl Monday in 60 seconds, both here on my channel and over on my Instagram. Since it is Halloween and I will never shy away from dressing for a theme, I'm doing something a little bit different for this week's Vinyl Monday. I have picked the vinyl pressing of the soundtrack of the film from which my costume is from. This week's album is the Almost Famous soundtrack.
How do you know when it's kicked in?
I am a golden god!
Yeah! Congrats to those who guessed it. Remember, if you want to play along and guess what album is coming up next, all you have to do is check out my community tab on my channel. We do a bunch of fun stuff over there. I post behind the scenes stuff. I post memes. We keep a running count of how many videos it takes for me to swear 5 times in one episode. And we run polls. Speaking of future episodes, I'm running a poll right now over there where you get to pick 2 upcoming episodes. I have a gap in my schedule after November. After November, people. This means December-ish. And you get to vote for which episodes you want to see. It's best 2 out of 3 between Zeppelin 1, Odyssey and Oracle, and Neil Young Harvest. So go vote for what albums you want to see. Go do it. You have 2 more days to vote before I close everything up. Okay, now that all the housekeeping is done, back to Almost Famous. Let's take this out of the plastic. And my copy is a repress. This is the Target exclusive pressing that they ran for the 20th anniversary of the film. I think this ended up being released in 2021 because 2020'd all over the place. Right, so for a long time, the only way you could get the Almost Famous soundtrack on vinyl was either to bootleg it or to buy the Untitled Cameron Crowe Project box set, which would run you for exorbitant amounts of money. I think it's still wildly expensive. Side note, this film was untitled until almost the very end of production. That's why you'll see Untitled Cameron Crowe Project on all of that material. The only reasonably priced stuff was bootlegs, that is, until this round of pressings. I have an abridged version of the soundtrack on a double LP, and as B-roll Abby will show you, it is on a beautiful, beautiful colored wax pressing. Disc 1 is on bright purple wax, and disc 2 is on magenta. This is in reference to the iconic sunglasses on the movie poster and on your album cover right here. Target used to be kind of with their color pressings, but honestly, since Taylor Swift fans made such an uproar over the Evermore Target pressing being red instead of green, Target has really stepped up their colored vinyl game. Thank you, Swifties. Very cool. There was also a 6-sided super deluxe run of the full version of this soundtrack on, I think, red, orange, and yellow wax. If you have the super deluxe run, let me know if it's worth it. I'd love to add it to my collection if nothing but a cool collector's item. So since this week's record is a soundtrack from a film, I'm going to go a little bit into the story of Almost Famous. So Almost Famous is a semi-autobiographical film by Cameron Crowe about his experiences writing for Rolling Stone magazine as a teenager in the 1970s. The character representing Crowe is boy genius Will Miller. He leaves home in 1973 at just 15 years old to write about a band called Stillwater. The characters in the film are based on reality, whether it's the overbearing helicopter mom, the cool older sister that left home, or composite characters of all the band members he met along the way. There are quite a few standout performances. Patrick Fugit did a great job as Will Miller. We see one of Zooey Deschanel's first big screen roles in this film. She plays Will's older sister, Anita, and my personal favorite performance was Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs. But far and away, the lady who stole the show and captured the hearts of thousands of viewers was 20-year-old Kate Hudson as Penny Lane, leader of the groupie troupe called the Band-Aids. And she is who I'm dressed as today. You'll be able to see the full look on the 60-second Vinyl Monday, I'm sure. Penny Lane is reported to be a composite of two very famous rock and roll ladies. She's named after Penny Trumbull, a real-life groupie and leader of the lesser-known groupie troupe, the Flying Garter Girls. Crowe reportedly based Penny, the character, off Bebe Buell. While studying for her role, Kate Hudson based her portrayal of Penny off Pamela Des Barres after reading her memoir, I'm With the Band, during the character study. One of the most important and celebrated aspects about Almost Famous is its use of music. Music is central to the plot of the film, so it's kind of important that it has a kick-ass soundtrack. A pivotal moment in Will Miller's life is when his older sister Anita leaves home to become a flight attendant. Though rock and roll is banned from the household, Anita leaves a suitcase of her albums under her brother's bed in hopes that he will discover them and one day he will become cool. I happen to have, oh my god, the stack is heavy. I happen to have all of the albums that Anita left Will in the film, so we're gonna go through them one by one, speed round here. In that suitcase was Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. Yes, I will be doing a Pet Sounds Vinyl Monday. Will it be anytime soon? No, the fuck not. There was James Taylor, Sweet Baby James, two Rolling Stones albums, the Big Hits, High Tide and Green Grass compilation, as well as the Get Your Ya-Ya's Out record. There was Zeppelin 2, Axis Bold as Love, Cream's Wheels of Fire, Joni Mitchell's Blue. This one is actually a plot hole or an anachronism, whatever you want to call it. This scene was supposed to have happened in like 1970-ish and Blue didn't come out till 71. Anyway, Bob Dylan, Blonde on Blonde, and finally, perhaps the most pivotal album in the story, The Who's Tommy. In this album was a note that Anita left for her kid brother. It said, "Listen to Tommy with a candle burning, and you will see your entire future." The extended cut of the film featured CSN's Couch album, as well as Neil Young's I'm Happy That Y'all Came Down. This is the only album of the bunch that I do not have. Oh my god, I got flashbacks from my first ever videos on YouTube from doing that. Oh boy. So Cameron Crowe chose all of these albums based on his own collection as a kid. Nancy Wilson wrote the score for Almost Famous, and her husband at the time, Peter Frampton, put together a sort of rock and roll boot camp for the actors playing Stillwater in this film. They were taught how to look like and sound like a real rock and roll band, and that was really important to the integrity of the Almost Famous story. Like I said, this is an abridged version of the soundtrack. My copy is only 15 songs long, while the full soundtrack, including all of the Stillwater originals, is about 50 tracks. I don't even think I'm counting the score in there either. Jesus, there is a lot of music in this movie. Let's get into this track listing. With some of my videos, I put song titles and color-coded all of that jazz on the screen. I am going to be putting artists, song titles, and release years on the screen as I'm reading all of this out to you. I do that when there's a lot to keep track of, and oh lord, there is a lot of shit to keep track of. The track listing goes as follows. Opening up disc 1, you have the Oogum Boogum song by Brenton Wood, followed by Simon & Garfunkel's America. Next is an edit of Amazing Journey and Sparks by The Who, and side A closes with Search and Destroy by The Stooges. Opening up side B, we have I've Seen All Good People by Yes, followed by our first Stillwater original, Fever Dog, then Simple Man by Lynyrd Skynyrd, and the first disc is closed with another Stillwater original, Love Thing. Disc 2 opens with That's the Way by Led Zeppelin, followed by Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. We just covered that album on this show. Side 3 closes with Future Games by Fleetwood Mac. Opening up side 4, we have a movie-exclusive edit of Tiny Dancer by Elton John. Then we have a live recording of Reelin' in the Years by Steely Dan. Then a cover of I'm Waiting for the Man by David Bowie. And finally, closing out the album, we have another Stillwater original called Love Comes and Goes. One thing I want to point out about the Almost Famous soundtrack is its use of Led Zeppelin's music. So Zeppelin never, ever lets anybody use their music for anything, but they let Almost Famous have 4 of their songs. That's the Way, which we have on this iteration of the soundtrack, Tangerine, the Rain Song, and Rock and Roll. Cameron Crowe asked to use Stairway as well, but Stairway? Denied! You can find the deleted Stairway scene online without the audio. I don't really think that having this scene in would have done much for the narrative, and I'm kind of glad that it was cut, but that's up for you to decide. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description. But it's interesting to me that of these 4 songs, 3 of them come from Zeppelin 3, thank God that was right side up, and Houses of the Holy. And of their whole discography, these 2 albums seem to be the most divisive. I've always loved Houses of the Holy, however flawed it may be, and even though I've spoke of it highly on this channel, it took me a long time to get Zeppelin 3. I've done a complete 180 on it over the years. I used to really dislike it, and now I like it. So Zeppelin okaying songs from these 2 records in particular, I think it was really smart. Almost Famous was released in the year 2000 to moderate success. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards and won just 1 for Best Screenplay. In the years following, it's become somewhat of a cult classic, especially amongst my age group of classic rock enthusiasts, and it's actually a musical on Broadway now. I would love to go see it and see exactly how they translated this film to the stage. Although it was pretty quiet upon release, Almost Famous's legacy has grown into something a lot bigger than the original film is. This film has renewed interest in real-life groupies all around. It certainly sparked an interest in Pamela Des Barres' book. Miss Pamela has been one of the most influential people on this stage of my life, and as both an artist and a lover of rock and roll, I really looked up to Cynthia Plastercaster, and I'm really sad that I didn't get to meet her. Some people get groupies. Some people don't. That's fine. It's also inspired a new generation of rock and roll journalists. McKenna Cayley reminds me so much of Will Miller in her super smarts and her super enthusiasm for rock and roll. And this sort of Instagram vintage community of sorts that I'm a part of has really latched on to Penny Lane. I don't really want to be like a Will Miller or a Penny Lane. I want to be Lester Bangs, bitch. That motherfucker was cool. Right now, I'm wearing the first Penny Lane coat that I ever got. I got this for $35. This was one of the first vintage pieces I ever bought, and it became my signature of sorts. Kind of became a security blanket in a way, just like Penny's is. Vintage Wilson's leather, mind you, for $35. This was right before the Penny Lane coat became like a trend, and the average price went up to about $200. Modern brands have really latched on to Penny Lane's style. In the film, both Boogie Child and the Hippie Shake sell reproduction pieces of things that Penny wore in the film for exorbitant amounts of money that I would absolutely pay. And these brands are doing a really good job selling the almost famous groupie dream that a lot of us classic rock loving girls share in some sense or another. I've written a lot more about Almost Famous and the groupie dream on my website. That's linked in the description as well if you'd like to read it. Almost Famous was one of my gateway drugs into rock and roll, I guess, and the soundtrack had a huge hand in that. It's a sampler of the who's who of 70s rock music. It was perfect for dipping my toe in, figuring out what I liked and what I didn't like. I actually discovered the Stooges through Almost Famous, and that set off the domino effect to all of the Detroit bands. Once somebody invents a time machine, drop my ass at the Grandy in 1969. The other reason this film really spoke to me is because, well, I had a Will Miller suitcase moment. People ask me all the time, you know, how did you get into classic rock? How did you get into vinyl collecting? I got into classic rock through the vinyl collecting. It wasn't the other way around, as you'd probably expect. And it was because of what I call my suitcase moment. Oh, sit tight. It's gonna be a lot of fucking B-roll. Like Will came into possession of Anita's records, I came into possession of an entire collection of albums from the late 60s into the early 70s. This was purely by chance and totally for free. I go into this story a little more in my Layla video, so I'll just give you a brief overview. But this collection introduced me to a lot of artists that have shaped my music taste, you know, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, early Fleetwood Mac, CSNY, Bob Dylan, of course Clapton and all of his groups. I discovered them all and then some through obtaining this collection. Hell, I discovered my favorite band, MC5, through Kick Out the Jams being in this collection. Getting all of that music all at once permanently changed the course of my life. It made me want to write about rock and roll. It made me want to dress the way I do. And it's the reason that Vinyl Monday exists in the first place. And that little B-roll Abby montage that I showed you were my suitcase albums. The ones that had the deepest effect on me. Ladies and gents, I can officially say that this is the fattest stack of records I have ever been surrounded with for the purpose of one video. And I actually have an update to this story following the Layla video. Recently, I got 3 more albums. I got my 4th copy of Blind Faith, my 2nd censored copy, my 2nd copy of Zeppelin 1, and my first copy of John Mayall Jazz Blues Fusion. Where are you, Jazz Blues? While I may have multiple copies of these records, I am never, ever getting rid of them. And I want to read you the note that came with these 3. Abby, your mom shared the Layla video with me, and I was thrilled to hear you're enjoying the albums I gave you. Thank you for the shout out. For someone who didn't live that time, you're very knowledgeable. I may start to watch your videos, and I never watch social media. That seems to be a resounding theme of this channel. Old guys joining social media because of Vinyl Monday. You speak well and have a beautiful way about you. Wishing you the best, Dan. P.S. I played in a band, guitar, in high school. On the envelope says, I can't believe you found MC5 albums. Hell yeah, I did, because Kick Out the Jams was in your collection! These were Dan's last 3 albums. He was keeping them for himself, but he saw this, and he gave them to me. I now own his entire record collection. Thank you, Dan, for giving your last 3 albums to me. I will cherish these forever. Thank you for facilitating my suitcase moment and for being kind of the patron saint of this channel. Your collection started all this mess. Oh Christ, it's another leaf blower. I need to wrap this up. This soundtrack is incredible. If you can find a way to listen to the whole thing, whether on vinyl or on your streaming service, please, please, please do it. And if you haven't seen the film, go watch the film. My main criticisms for this specific iteration of the soundtrack, Lucky Trumbull by Nancy Wilson should be here. Nancy Wilson's work on the score was incredible. The Cat Stevens song should be in here too. It's one of the most iconic scenes in Almost Famous besides the Tiny Dancer bus scene and What Kind of Beer. The fidelity of these recordings are all over the place. The dip in sound quality from the studio tracks to the live tracks that they picked are noticeable. Overall, for someone whose life has been so impacted by Almost Famous, and for someone who's lived some of the events of the film, I've certainly had my fair share of What Kind of Beer moments as well. This pressing of the soundtrack is wonderful to have. I reach for the albums that actually made these songs more, but this is a great piece to have. My personal favorites on this abridged soundtrack are America, Search and Destroy, Future Games, That's the Way, the live performances of Reelin' in the Years, and I'm Waiting for the Man, and I think my favorite Stillwater tune is Love Thing. If you want to keep up with my faves, I have a Spotify playlist of all of my favorite songs from all of the Vinyl Mondays ever linked in my description. And that is it. That is my Almost Famous Halloween Vinyl Monday special. What do you think of Almost Famous and its soundtrack? Leave a comment below letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about the albums and the film that I love. And if you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for watching this Vinyl Monday Halloween special, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!